Hello, everybody. Welcome to the virtual TrekCon 3 2022 interview with the amazing Jayne Brook.
Hello, everyone.
Very excited to have her here. I have a suite of questions that I'll be asking, but I see many of you are already in the chat. Please feel free to pop in some questions, and we'll be going in there to see. So, for those of you who may not be familiar with Jayne's Trek connection specifically, to start with, she played Admiral Katrina Cornwell in seasons 1 and 2 of Star Trek Discovery, and we're very honored to have you. Thank you, Jayne, for being here.
Always good to talk to you, Mohammed.
So, I'm going to start asking you a couple of questions about your backstory, and let's start with this. So, you went to Duke University, which I've heard about.
Yes.
Initially, you were planning to go into environmental science. What changed your mind to go into theater?
I have one specific memory
Ooh.
of being in a botany class. I think it was the fall or the spring of my freshman year. And I was watching the professor at the front of the class, just so full of deep enthusiasm for his subject, like bouncing up and down. Like he was really great. But I remember watching him and thinking, you know, it's what young people, you're 18 years old. What do we didn't have advisors then, but I thought, I know why the leaves change color. I love camping. I know like what I need to know in terms of enjoying the environment. And I didn't see myself as him. They didn't have environmental studies then. They had like biology, botany.
Mhm.
And I thought, maybe I don't want to actually be a professional botanist or professional. So I then just picked a major out of the hat, switched to poli sci
Oh.
for 2 seconds. But then I did a musical because I'd always been singing and dancing in high school, extracurricular. And I thought, I'll take an acting class. So, yeah, I kind of wandered off, but I ended up taking an acting class at Duke and I got away from environmental. But funny that my daughter is kind of a environmental studies minor right now.
That's so
So,
cool.
she might be living. Sorry, I'm moving the table. She might be living out a little bit of my dream.
That's awesome. Well, you've done
Yeah,
great with the alternate route
yeah,
there.
yeah.
We're
Right.
very proud and
I
very
know.
happy that you made that change.
Yeah, me too.
So, very early on, as far as I can tell from IMDb, two of your earliest performances were in Superman 4 and in Kindergarten Cop, both of which were really big productions. What was the process like for landing those roles?
Well, kindergarten. Superman 4 was so long ago. Like I think I just got out of drama school in England, and the thing that's a funny memory for me, I do remember. I don't even remember the audition. I must have auditioned, but I think the backstory was they hired someone to play the school teacher in Superman 4, a scene with Christopher Reeve. Um, I can't, anyway, the director, I can't remember the name of the director, didn't like the casting when it started and said, can you can we get sort of a young teacher of these young kids? And I got a phone call in my apartment in London, like on a Friday evening, like really late. And they said, can you do this part? We're going to send a car for you. And I was so unprepared and I was so green. Like I didn't understand. I was like, okay. And I packed a bag and they sent this big car for me to drive me out to the country where they were filming. And the next day, suddenly I was in this schoolroom filming with Christopher Reeve. But the real thing, if you watch that movie, I remember going to the cast and crew screening with a friend, and my little part comes up, and I open my mouth, and a different voice comes out.
Oh.
They dubbed me, which is, after drama school in England, after like, I was, I was like, "That's not my voice. That's not my voice." I grabbed my friend. And she was like, "Shh." And I was so horrified and humiliated and ran out of there. But I think they thought that my accent was too English, they thought. I
Oh
still
my
completely
gosh.
sounded like an American, but not to the Americans. And they dubbed me with someone like I gotta watch that movie again. I never saw it again after that screening. I was traumatized. And then Kindergarten Cop was really fun because I had only just arrived in LA, and that was only 2 scenes, but it was a really good part. It was
Mhm.
like I played the serious role in this funny movie, but Arnold
Mhm.
Schwarzenegger was very funny. Like, would be one time we were rehearsing and, I remember I was like, a serious young actress trying to do her job, and we were doing the second of my scenes where we were walking, or no, maybe it was one in the car. I can't remember. But
Mhm.
while we were rehearsing, he started going like like he started like sniffing it, like, and he was trying to get me to laugh or trying to get me to go off my game. He's a real jokester, and finally he did get me to laugh, but he was always trying to play jokes on people.
That's
So yeah,
amazing. Have you kept in
yeah.
touch with him by any chance? Or
No, no,
no?
no,
Okay. Yeah.
no.
There's a lot of comments in here, a lot of outrage about your being dubbed, and then here's one
Uh,
from our
Thank you
host.
for the outrage. I was outraged. I was this
Yeah.
young 20 something, and I was like, "Oh." Yeah, that would be mortifying. That actually it was to be sitting in a room with like all these people and acting like you're not just a person opening your mouth. It's fun to watch myself dubbed in other languages because it's funny, but to have you dubbed in your own language, horrible.
Yeah. No,
That
that's
was
that's pretty
that
intense.
was my illustrious beginning. First movie.
Oh, here's another comment about the other one. Wow.
Yeah.
It's from Dr. Anne Marie Siegel. She's actually one of the
Oh,
organizers of the
yeah.
convention too. We love her. Oh, here's an interesting comment.
Yeah, I'm dropping it all and doubling down. Yeah, and I think I did double down. The funny story about that is the whole reason I am an actress, I think, is because when I did take that first, nobody goes to Duke to become an actor, not when I went there 100 years ago. And
I won't tell the Duke Theater Department.
yeah, you what?
I won't tell the Duke Theater
Yeah,
Department.
right. Well, no, now maybe they do, but
Yeah,
like not all those years ago. I mean, it was a wonderful, wonderful little tight group of people doing great plays. But
uh-huh.
so I signed up for this acting class in terms of doubling down or dropping it sophomore year. And so I was a little bit younger, so I was 18. And the first scene that was given to me to act, John Clum, the professor, gave me Blanche Dubois in A Streetcar Named Desire, end of the third act. Anyone listening who knows when Blanche Dubois is having this date with Mitch and she has to go, fire, fire, like this dramatic scene. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't talk about not being able to speak. And I think I carried on with acting because it really grabbed me. But I've thought about it and I think it threw me
Mhm.
so much to be so, I joke, so bad at something or so thrown by something. I was unused to having something throw me that much, so I doubled down like the comment. I
Good
was
for
like, "I'm
you.
gonna
Good
do
for
this
you.
again." Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, here's another question for you.
Oh, The District. Oh my gosh, just hidden gem before its time. Can Jane talk about her experience on that series? You know what I think of when I think of The District?
Mhm.
Um, I think I pissed them off a little bit because
Oh, no.
I did the pilot.
Uh-huh.
That was really fun. I did the pilot
Mhm.
and then got pregnant.
Oh.
And that was not a character who could be pregnant. And
Mm.
so it got picked up, and I had to tell them, "Oh my god, you guys, I'm pregnant." And they were like, "Oh, what lovely news. Congratulations. Like, we're gonna kill you."
Oh, no.
So
There's a response from that person.
if you watch The District again, um, watch me behind tables with files in front of my stomach.
Mhm.
Um, I think Sabrina joked about that on the cruise, like, she was like, "What is this?" She always has something in front of her stomach, and that was my baby,
Oh my
Annalisa,
gosh.
who's now in environmental studies, well, she's minoring in it now, but the district was really, um yeah, that was a cool experience, so I actually, in my personal life, think of the district as, like, that period of time when because I literally stopped filming with them in January, and she was born January 23rd, I think.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
That's
There's
probably
actually
not the experience you wanted to hear about, but it was a good experience.
No, that's
Yeah.
great. There's actually a question I wanna come back to, but let me ask you this one first.
Mm.
Based on IMDb, I believe your longest running series regular role was in Chicago Hope, starting in
Mhm.
its first season. What are some of your favorite memories about playing Dr. Diane Grad?
That show, it's funny because in my mind, right over the computer, I'm looking out my window, and there's this beautiful hawk that has just stopped right in front of my head. I'm
Oh.
like a hawk. Anyway, that show was such a great so I did that for, like, 4.5 years. I have so many good memories. In terms of intense acting memory, I did the whole series of shows with Peter McNichol when he gets shot, and then I really lose it in the emergency room. That was like really great scene. I had so much fun with Peter Berg. He and I played husband and wife, and he was just such a goofball. I have great memories of everybody on that show. So, Mark Harmon, such a gentleman and such a nice guy. Everybody, just I really enjoyed it. And I also, so many things, like here I'm talking about how it mirrors my personal life, but I got married to John during Chicago Hope, had my first baby during Chicago Hope. So I have great memories of that time. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Bill
That's awesome.
D'Elia, just like all these great people. Rocky Carroll. I remember laughing so hard on the set with him. I can't remember why we couldn't get our shot. We were just laughing and laughing. Anyway, yeah. Good memories.
Awesome. So you're from the Chicago area originally, I believe. So did you get to film any of Chicago Hope back in Chicago, or your one episode of Early Edition?
Both. So we did Chicago Hope here, but we did go on location in Chicago. And then the Early Edition, the people that they wrote into Early Edition, they flew us out there. So that was fun. So we didn't go often, but I did. I do remember filming those scenes with Peter, going under the bridge. And I remember there was a scene where we were filming and we were under the L, in Chicago, the elevator. So I'm standing on the street and they're like, okay, rolling. And I had my winter coat on, and suddenly, this bird just, just pooped, maybe on my head as well, but just and I was like, I just got pooped on. And everyone tried to say to me, it's good luck, Jayne. It's supposed to be good luck.
I was thinking of that too.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that is good luck.
Yeah.
This is out of order. I'm going to go ahead and jump back to this is something that's actually very, very current, but we'll jump to it because it's a good question.
I was wondering how Jayne liked her experience on the Star Trek cruise, and if that was her first one, how did she like the Women of Trek panel? Oh, so much back in Women's Trek. There was Book of Women's Trek that Jayne was in. I totally loved. That was my first cruise ever, like not just Star Trek cruise, but I'd never been on a cruise. I had been on a big ship, like for 2 days, going across the Baltic Sea once to a wedding in St. Petersburg, if you can believe it. But that wasn't really a cruise. But so that was my first cruise, and I had kind of no expectations because I didn't know what to expect. And everyone told me the thing that I loved about the cruise was the extended amount of time and kind of more relaxed time than a convention, with both the actors who I got to spend time with that I didn't know as well, like Nana Visitor and Denise Crosby and Terry Farrell, like the people that I hadn't worked with, but I got to be with all those actors. And of course, Mohammed was on the cruise. We did a biology thing together. So that was really fun. And then you had an extended period of time meeting the fans, which was nice. You didn't have to just have that 2-second exchange, while you're signing a picture or something. And I really, really liked that panel with Nana, I should say. Why am I saying Nana? It's because originally when I read it, that's what went in my brain. It goes. But it was a great panel. It was a really good panel.
Awesome.
Totally enjoyed that.
You were definitely on I remember you had a competitive show with Bob O'Reilly and Emily Coots.
That was so fun. That's the first thing I had to do was that show, the game show on the cruise. And I thought, oh God, I'm just going to be so bad at this. It was one of those, who am I? I was very proud of myself, but then because I'm not good at Trivial Pursuit. Like I'm not good at, I'll know a movie, I won't remember the title. I'll know an actor, I won't remember their name. So, but I was questioning to myself, why was I so good at that game? It was the one where they put the name over your head and you have to ask yes, no questions of the audience. So it was like am I male, am I female? And I thought maybe I was better at that game because I was in control of the way I was thinking. I could ask questions according to my own way of thinking rather than someone just throwing a movie from the 50s at me,
Oh, it was
So
great. I
yeah,
remember you were very logical about like, is
I
this
I was
person
very logical. Yeah.
was this person born before the year 2000? Was this it was very I'm going to
Yeah.
narrow this down very quickly to
Yeah.
one
Were they
person.
literature? Were they science? Were they fiction? Were they
Exactly.
real? I was like, bum, 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 bum.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, it was
Yeah.
great. It was great. And you killed in that episode in
Yeah.
that show.
Yeah.
So, looking over your resume more generally, it looks like you tended to be in drama series more often
Mm.
than, for example, like comedy, with Kindergarten Cop obviously being an exception. Was that intentional on your part, or is that just what opportunities arose at a specific time?
It's probably well, Kindergarten Cop. What's funny is that was a comedy, but I
Yeah,
played the drama part
yeah.
in it. But I did do one comedy. People who know me, they're like, "Why are you not doing comedy? Why are you not doing comedy?" And I'm like, "Well, that's like what I'm known for, more drama." I
Mhm.
think I think it's partly my personality. I'm not like a natural um cut up, you know.
Mhm.
I th- I think if I'm funny in real life, it's because will dryly say something and it'll be funny. I don't know, but it's mostly those are the things that
Mhm.
built up in my resume, more drama. But I did do when so it was right after Annalisa was born, I think, after The District.
Mhm.
Trying to get the timing. I did a show with Hank Azaria,
Mm.
and
He's
we
the
were
king of
husband and
funny.
wife. Yeah, we were supposed to, who of course is a master of comedy,
Mhm.
and it was kind of they were hoping it would be the next Mad About You, that would be
Mhm.
the next, and I'd be the kind of more straight up wife, kind of funny, but um, so that's just like the life of an actor. That could have
Mhm.
been the next huge show, and then
Mhm.
I would have gone more that direction, or it just didn't take off. That's just the life. That's what's weird about TV shows and movies, like what takes off and what doesn't take off.
Yeah.
Sometimes
So
what hits the zeitgeist doesn't make sense. Yeah.
when you say it didn't take off, do you mean like the pilot didn't get picked up, or
Well, no, it got picked up, and we
oh,
did
okay.
some episodes, and they didn't
Okay.
even air them all. I think there was also like there's behind the scene battles sometimes, like
Mm. I see.
who I think it just fell apart, like with arguments between studios and writers and networks, and I don't know.
I
I don't
see.
know the
I
whole
see.
exact story. It went on hiatus
Got
and
it.
then never came back. Yeah,
Got it. Got it. We
yeah.
have a question from earlier. I'm going to jump back to, especially now we're starting to transition to Trek related questions.
Good question for Jane. Do you like to be in Star Trek and being part of
Yeah.
this community? What an unexpected blessing. I did not It came to me out of the blue. They offered me this Admiral, and and I was like, "Yeah, sure. That sounds like fun." And I think I've told the story before. They said it would just be for 3 episodes, and then I would be killed in a big, massacre, that Cancri, when my character goes to Cancri 4, right?
Mhm.
And I joke that I called my husband when I read the script and was like, "I don't die. I get taken prisoner." And then the character of Cornwell really took off after that. Um, and it was such a surprising blessing to be
Mhm.
invited into this world and into when people say it's a family, they're not joking. It really is a family. And I notice how the fans like the fans love to go to the conventions or the cruise
Oh yeah.
to meet people, to meet like the actors, but they also, I realize, they just love being with each other. It's a family of people who love similar things and love Star Trek and space, and so it's kind of cool to be invited into that very generous family and such nice people, um,
Uh, we we
such a nice
all
group of people.
we
Yeah,
all love you being part of it too, especially because you're a
that's
wonderfully nice person too.
you're so nice.
So as we get to the 2000s and you're looking at your resume, like we see some Star Trek connections, like you playing Renee Auberginois' daughter in Boston Legal. So do you have any
Yeah.
specific memories about that, and did you know Renee beforehand, perhaps from his role in Benson or other series?
No, I never knew Renee before that.
Mhm.
I'm sure that Benson was filmed long before I got to LA. I don't even know when was that.
It was, I think,
80s?
late 70s, early
Oh
80s, I
yeah,
believe.
that was like 15 years before I got here. But
Yeah.
I would have been late 70s. I would have been, yeah.
Oh,
No.
I meant just from watching on TV, not from like professional
Oh, I
viewing.
thought you meant from meeting him in it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, and I
sorry.
was like, no, I never met him on that. Um, I think I knew the TV show, but I don't think I knew the name because you're young, you're not really
Mhm,
paying attention.
mhm,
Um, but, uh, I had never met Renee. and that was a wonderful experience doing Boston Legal. That was a great part, and it was with my old friend, really, Bill D'Elia, who had been the executive producer on Chicago Hope, and then on Boston Legal. And Renee was a gentleman and just a kind, wonderful man, and we just got along being actors doing those scenes. I mean, really, I remember Bill D'Elia. We did that really intense scene, if people have seen it, but my character had been a drug addict and he had cut me off, and I had shown up at the law office, the Boston Legal. And it was a really, really emotional scene between father and daughter, how could you have left me type thing. And Renee and I think we're professional and experienced enough, and the kind of actors we are, not over talking it. I would just go to a corner quietly, and then when they were ready for me, I wasn't talking. But I remember Bill D'Elia directing it and executive producing, just came up and just said, "Thank you so much." That's what I love the most, when I don't have to say a word to the actors, Thank you just for the two of you just delivering. And that was really a great memory, that job.
That's awesome. We have a couple of comments I wanted to hit up in the chat. This one from Glenn Iverson. Once you're in Star Trek, you're part of an instant family.
Sweet. So nice. Whether you're an actor, a member of the crew, a creative, or even in some cases just a supporter. Well, I think all the supporters are the family. I mean, that's that as well, So everything.
A lot of similar comments.
Big time family. I really have noticed that. Because people would say, like the first convention I went to, "Welcome to the family. Welcome to the family." And it's really true,
Did you connect with Renee at like some of the conventions before he passed?
I got to go up to Renee. So I went to Birmingham for a convention in England, right towards the beginning. So I filmed Star Trek in 2017. It would have aired in 2018. And I think that was the year I went to England, and I made a point. He was there too, of going up to him and saying, "Hi, Dad," or something like that,
I love that.
Yeah.
Lots of love for Boston Legal here in the chat too.
Yeah, Boston Legal was a great show.
Like Boston Legal was like Star Trek Jag.
Star Trek Jag. Oh, that's funny.
I love that. So let's see, what's my next question? So let's talk more about Star Trek itself now. Actually, I guess you answered part of this question already. How aware were you of the Star Trek franchise prior to playing Admiral Cornwell? I guess it's not exactly the same question.
I mean, I was, I knew, like, I think I've told you, Bob Picardo is a great friend of great friends of ours. So we would be at their house, for dinner, and it would be mentioned that he did conventions. And so I was like aware of it, but I wasn't deeply aware of it.
Okay. You mentioned Bob Picardo. You also, I think, friends with Roxanne Dawson too. Is that right?
Oh, Roxanne. Yes. Roxanne and I were moms together. Like her older daughter is my older daughter's age. And we were in like a charity group together for years. And it's like you're doing the mom thing. I never really put it together. And then when I got the job, she called me and said, "We got to talk about you being part of the Star Trek family," and stuff like that. I'm going to get some water, but
Sure.
So I don't think either one of us really thought about her Star Trek connection when we were just being moms in this charity group. But
gotcha. Well, I know since you've been in Star Trek, you've been watching a lot of it, like not just Discovery, but also some of the earlier series as well. Had you watched much before that, or not so much?
Not too much. I mean, everyone knows Spock and Kirk and everything. I mean, you'd have to have been born under a rock to not know the original series. Like there's but I was obviously aware of Picard, and I was aware, but I hadn't really watched. But you have been such a good guide, telling me these are the best episodes of the original series. These are some great episodes from Next Gen and Voyager and Deep Space Nine. And so and the crews helped me again a lot, because being on a panel with Terry and Nana and being at dinner with different people, it like settled it all in my brain. Boop, 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 boop. And now I wanted to see more and more.
That's awesome. That's awesome. There's lots more Cornwell love coming up here.
oh, thank you.
So among those ones that you've watched, so like, are there particular episodes or particular characters outside of Discovery that you felt like a good connection to, or like, wow, that was really impressive?
Well, I really did. I really love Deep Space Nine. I have to say, and I really loved, and it was an episode that you had recommended me because you knew that I'd be doing the panel with Nana,
Yeah.
and you were like, "Here's a great episode that she does," and I can't remember the name of it,
Was it
but
duet?
she was really great in
I
the
think that was
episode.
duet. Is that right?
I think it might be where I mean, she was huge throughout the episode, and it was with Harris Yulin, who I did my first TV show with here. He was
Oh,
great. Harris
oh,
Yulin played. He did a great job in that episode. It was Nana and Harris Yulin, and that was really fun to see. Other characters, I love Janeway. Of
yeah.
course, I love her. She's just really cool. She's just a really cool captain, like very just believable. She just grabbed that role, and I love her.
Oh yeah.
Um,
She was
but
actually not the first person cast as Janeway, interestingly.
oh, tell me that story. What
Sure,
if
there was Geneviève Bujold was actually cast as Janeway and then worked like a day or two on set and then said like, I don't want to do this and quit. And they actually had to refilm those scenes with Kate Mulgrew. Yeah.
Oh, isn't that there's a lot of stories like that. Like Dustin Hoffman was not who they originally wanted to cast in The Graduate, and now none of us can imagine that, like there's a lot of
Exactly.
stories like that. Yeah.
Yep. That's a good comment. We need Admiral Cornwell back somehow.
Oh,
After all, no one really dies in Trek. It's true, there's still that mirror universe Cornwell is presumably still out there.
I know Mirror Universe Cornwell must still be out there. I think
Yeah.
the real Cornwell, just like the real Lorca, no, just like the mirror Lorca, we don't really know about real Lorca. We think he's dead, but
true.
I mean, we're pretty sure he is. But
yeah, so that's a good segue. Tell me your thoughts on Admiral Cornwell and how is she like Jayne Brook and how is she most different?
Well, Jayne Brook has never had to be the leader of that many people in life and death situations.
Uh-huh.
But the thing that's interesting is because I wasn't that familiar with Star Trek, I just played the human that was on the page and what was required of her. So
Mm-hmm.
an actor always brings themselves to the role.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think how it's funny because when you're playing her, you feel really married with her. So you're not really thinking, how is she different?
Yeah.
She was probably, although they did show her be very emotional a couple of times, she's probably a little bit more in control of her emotions publicly because she's a military,
Mm-hmm.
Federation figure.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really think. And how is she the same? I think she's I think she really thought through the ethics of
Yeah.
things and had to make difficult decisions because of her position. I could really relate to that, not because I've had to, be in charge of a federation, but I could relate to her. I also think her intuition with Lorca is kind of like me. She's like, something's off here. I don't care what
Mm-hmm.
anyone says. I don't care if you all love him. Something's off here. And people are like, she's so mean. And then they realized, oh, maybe not. She knew. But I really tried to draw on something deep in myself, like in the scene with Mary when she says, how does this end? You tell me,
Yeah.
your Takuma is a fool. I really loved that scene with Mary. So I don't know. I think we were alike in many ways since I played her.
That's awesome. Actually, this connects with Lisa's question too, which is who did she draw on for inspiration for the character?
I don't know that I always think of another like actual human being. I think what was very pure about my approach to Cornwell is maybe I think it was. I'm saying this spontaneously, but I think perhaps it was good that I didn't have a lot of knowledge about Star Trek going in to Cornwell, because then I could just play her as that human in that circumstance without like even unconsciously thinking I had to imitate anyone else in the Star Trek franchise or someone on TV. I mean, I guess I could have tried to think through very powerful women, but somehow I don't know if I did consciously think of,
Fair enough.
Hillary Clinton, or I don't know. That's not really a good example because she's not in the military. But yeah.
I love that
I th-
range of emotion that you showed in the second to last episode of the first season there, because
mhm.
when you first came in, you were just total badass with the gun, like where is he? Ready
Right, right.
whereas the scene when you were approaching the star base that had been taken over by the Klingons, that just paralysis for just a moment, and then okay, you think what to do,
And when you first watch that, you go, not very good for a leader to be like, what are we going to do? But then you realize that Discovery has not been through that war for 2 years.
Mhm, mhm,
Discovery wasn't living through the loss of all those people.
mhm,
And so to see that last bastion of where she thought all these Federation leaders would be who could back her up, and they're all gone,
mhm,
that would really throw anyone for a loop for a moment. So it
100%.
made sense. But I loved the range of Cornwell. They did
Mhm,
show a range.
totally.
She wasn't just like,
No. That would have been bad.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand this question. I'll put up, said, "What inspired you to play as Cornwell?" I'm not sure I understand it. What about you?
That kind that I but that might have it might be a question of what inspired me. I don't think it's a question of what inspired me to take the role. I
Okay.
think but if it was what inspired me to take the role of Cornwell, it would be just what kind of fun adventure will this be? I've never done Star Trek, you know.
Yeah.
This will be totally new and fun. To play her as she was, the inspiration always first comes from the script itself. Like
Mhm,
you read the script and you say, you know, who is this person in this circumstance? And
mhm,
that really is what inspired me more than, um, thinking, "Who do I liken her to?" And
mhm.
also, I'm sure that images from my whole life, they're in your head and you're drawing from
Yeah.
powerful people that you've seen, but you're not consciously thinking of it.
That's awesome. That's all. So, setting aside the excellent people who did play those roles in Discovery and not comparing anything to them, if you had a chance to play another existing role in Discovery, and it could be one that you
Oh,
overlapped, or it could be one from the later seasons. I don't think you're going to pick Tarka though. Even
ta
for an
oh, yeah.
episode, even for an
They got
episode
a
or two,
good he's a good actor. He is
he is
so
a good
good.
actor. Yeah, but I don't think you want to play him.
No, he's like, I'm like, "Turka." Yeah, I have one more show, so nobody ruin it for me.
Yeah, nobody
I've
spoiled it at
I've
the
watched
last
up
episode.
to I've gotten to watch the last one today.
Awesome. But who else
But
might you play
what
then?
existing I mean, how much fun. I could never play this. I mean, I could never play it, but in my fantasy, I could pretend that I could play it. How much fun would Michelle Yeoh's Mir
Oh,
Georgiou be? I mean, like a Mir character like her. She's hilarious, but I don't even want to say that because she's the only one who could play that. She's like Michelle Yeoh with her.
yeah.
So trying to think what other fun. I think it would be fun. Gosh, the characters who exist right now.
Mhm.
Um, I can only see them as who they are. Maybe because I
Yeah.
haven't seen Michelle in a while, she pops to my head, but it's like I can't see any of the roles that are there existing now as anybody but the people playing them now.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm trying to think if there's like I mean, maybe it wouldn't be unlike me to play like the president of the Federation,
Mhm. Mhm. Relic?
um yeah, Rillick
Mhm.
is a character that's in the same kind of wheelhouse,
Mhm. Mhm. I can
um,
see that.
and, but I don't even like speaking of that because I like the actors, you
Yeah.
you
I
don't wanna
understand. I
sound like
understand.
yeah.
So you mentioned Michelle Yeoh, and this question happened to pop up earlier.
Oh, she's the nicest, she's a really cool, gentle, funny, professional, gorgeous, um, obviously hugely talented, unique person. How many Michelle Yeohs are there in this world? I
Yeah.
mean, how many of any of us are there? We're all unique, but the
Except for the
fact that she
multiverse.
started as a ballet dancer and she's can do the martial arts and she has a real sense of humor. She's a really all the people, all of the cast on Discovery,
Mhm.
it really is a real family. Like when you hear all the actors talking about how
Yep.
great that cast is,
Mhm.
yeah, they're not BSing. They're not like just saying it to sound good. And I often have said this, and I've said it to Sonequa, and I said it to Sonequa when they were just starting out. I'm like, I've been at this for a while, Sonequa. You are a great number one, meaning number one on the call sheet, which
Yeah.
means the top actor, on the call sheet. Because
Mhm.
as my mother used to always say that fish stinks from the head down. So if you so if you have a number one who's like a maniac, this is going to filter into the atmosphere of the set. But
Mhm.
Sonequa is just an amazing human being. She
Aw.
is just a wonderful human being. Greets everybody on the set. There's not
Mhm.
a whiff of her thinking, this is more about me than about
Mhm.
you. Everybody, everyone's part of her family and part of this team,
That's
So I
lovely.
think that colors the atmosphere. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Another question here. If you've been interested in, or your circle of family or friends gone into the Star Trek fandom of games, collectibles, and
Oh,
comic books and novels?
you know what? I've only am a little bit aware because people will tell me that Cornwell has shown up and Mir Cornwell has shown up in
Oh,
some books, I think, but I'm not as aware. I need to be educated. Yeah, it's amazing, like how big the world is. You're the actor, so you're aware of your show and your part, but the way that the fans take it into this huge experience is incredible. So I'm not as aware, but I should be educated on all that.
that's awesome. Well, random and Namo. If you have any recommendations, pop them into the chat.
What was
um,
that?
the person who wrote that question, just if they have a
Oh,
recommendation, yeah.
recommend-
There's a comment. Actually, I actually had a question about Gattaca, but I took it out because I was trying to make it a
Gattaca.
little. I was trying to make it more Star Trek heavy, but since it's come up,
I
great.
make a joke. I make a joke with people that I gave birth to uh, Ethan
Ethan Hawke.
Hawke, right? I
Yep.
gave birth to Ethan Hawke. I mean, we had a birthing scene, and it was, I make a joke, but that. So wait, what was the question about Gattaca?
Oh, it wasn't a question. It was just saying
Oh,
somebody saying they
that was a
reminded you. But
good.
if you have any reminiscence from that, feel free to share too.
Well, that was a movie before its time, and it didn't do as well as it should have. And if it came out later, maybe 10 years later, maybe 20 years later, it would have had more of an impact because the medical ethics questions in that movie, and I was not one of the leads, but the medical ethics questions did circle around in the beginning of that story around that mother and her
Mhm.
choices that she was fighting the society, saying that she had to genetically alter her baby. She said, "No, I want to have the baby that I'm going to have," and
Mhm.
she had Ethan Hawke, right? And then the
Mhm.
second baby, by that time, she was really her arm was twisted into doing all those things to make a
Yeah.
perfect baby,
Yeah.
And the movie was about about how the great none of us is perfect, nor should none of us should be perfect, but the great um, humans who have created things have not been perfect. And I was a little disappointed when I saw that movie. I should watch it again because the script had a legend of all the people who would not have been born
Mhm.
had there been a genetic,
That's right.
absencing of them from in vitro. And it was like Mozart, Einstein, it was like all these people who would not have been born, they would have been deemed
Unworthy.
faulty,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah.
Ah, that's a great point. Great point.
Yeah.
So connecting on this from Gattaca and Disco, do you have any more sci-fi?
I did a pilot with John Woo, and they
Oh,
apparently are doing it now of Lost in Space. I did Lost in Space with John Woo. Now, who would have thought a pilot directed by John Woo didn't get picked up? So,
wow.
and now I hear they've done one or they're doing one now, right? Lost
I
in
think they
Space.
just finished. I think there were 3 seasons of it.
So
They
that would
just
have
finished this
been,
one.
yeah, 20 years ago I did that.
Mhm. Mhm.
No, a
There
little
was
bit,
a
18
movie.
years ago, 17 years ago, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a movie in the late 90s of Lost in Space too, so I wonder if it was a follow-up from that in some way.
Yeah, but this was more yeah, it could have been no, this was more like 2004.
Oh, okay. A
I
little
did
bit
it.
later. Yeah. So there's a great question. I love this one. What does your family think of your part in Star Trek? And are there any wild Trekkies in your
Oh, I know
family?
Wild Trekkies. I don't know of any Wild Trekkies. They just think it's cool. Like my I think they just think it's cool, Mom. What are you doing now? Like they think it's cool, uh that I played this part and
Mhm.
that people love it and yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So if
But,
Admiral oh,
I've gotta ask 'cause
please.
this is curious. My older daughter just started dating, I mean, it's a joke because you could say to someone, well, it's not rocket science, but she actually is dating someone who, I don't know, he's an engineer and I think he's a rocket scientist. I've got to ask him, are you into Star Trek? I got to ask him because
Ah,
there's a lot of people who do that for a living who love Star Trek. Yeah.
it'd be funny if he hasn't made the connection yet to your daughter.
He might
It's
not
just
have made the connection. It's kind of new. And yeah, so wouldn't that be funny if he was watching
very
Star Trek and
funny.
I'd be like, I can order you around. Yeah, be nice to my daughter.
Exactly, better be good to her.
Yeah, right. It's an order.
Cool. So if Admiral Cornwell had made it to the future in season 3, and then obviously continuing season 4 of Discovery, what role do you think she might have played, possibly alongside another crew member?
Oh, okay. Um, well, the obvious one that comes to mind because in those, I think we talked about it once in those last episodes. You know, it was hard to. Admiral was on the ship, but she's not the captain of the ship, so there's not really. I mean, she's superior officer, but there's not really anything to do. The captain is the captain of the ship. But she did have scenes where she was helping Wilson. She helped Tyler, remember?
Mhm,
Because
mhm,
she is a psychiatrist. That's her
mhm.
profession. So she could help people with the trauma. I mean, she'd be going through the trauma herself as well. So um, but I understand, you know, they have a doctor on the ship. They have Wilson, and he's taken on both roles of doctor and psychiatrist.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've set it up that he studied that, but he has, you know, grown into it. That's the only thing I could think that she could have done. Yeah.
No, that's a great one. That's a great one. And she
Yeah.
would have been professionally trained in it. And possibly, I mean, we could, we're creating, if we create canon, we could say that maybe he drew some of his inspiration in that role from his interactions with your character earlier in that
Yeah, he
role.
did have, you know, we did have that nice scene, you know, that nice scene with Wilson. So yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. There's a thing just related to the previous point. A lot of people
Oh.
became scientists because of Star Trek. So connecting back to your, I almost said
Yeah, I
son-in-law,
love
not that
that.
part
I
yet.
love that because when I went to conventions, the first time a guy from NASA put his card down, like wanting my autograph, I was so confused. I mean, I was kind of like, shouldn't we be reversing places? You know, like he's like John Doe, NASA, and it. I realized, oh my God, this makes sense. Of course, this is why I mentioned, you know,
Mhm.
the young man, my daughter, because I'm thinking it makes sense that you would grow up on this and dream of becoming an astronaut or a um, rocket scientist or something.
Have you
So
had the,
yeah, that's cool.
have you had the experience yet of somebody telling you that you had inspired them in whatever profession? It doesn't even have to be for Star Trek.
Well, she
Maybe to
hasn't been
become a
around
doctor.
long. I don't know that she's been around long enough to for PhD. I mean,
Yeah.
if she inspired someone, they would be getting their PhD now, wouldn't
Yeah.
they? It's
Well,
only been like 5 years. Yeah.
could be also from a previous role. So, for example, maybe to become a doctor like Diane Grad too.
Oh, I see, from
Yeah.
a previous role.
Yeah.
Actually, I do remember getting letters. I do
Yeah.
remember getting a dear sweet letter when I did play Diane Grad from a girl who was like in 8th grade, and
Oh,
she said, "I wanna be a doctor because of you." Yeah, it was a sweet letter. I was like, "Go for it."
go for it.
Yeah,
Indeed.
go for it.
That's outstanding. So we have a question here from Cerulean Blue. Would Mrs. Brooks consider working in prosthetic makeup like a Ferengi or Klingon?
Well, you know, I have a funny story about that. I
Please.
would. It would be kinda cool as mask work 'cause, but when they called me in May of 2017 to say, you know, the agent calls and said, "You have an offer," you know, um, "It's for Star Trek," and my first question was, "Human or alien?" Because I've had friends who have played the aliens, and I knew that they would have to be in the makeup chair at 3 in the morning,
Hmm.
and sometimes for 5 hours before they
Hmm.
even started, and I remember talking with someone, "My god, what was that like?" You know? Um, and so when they said human, I was like, "Oh, good, it'll be an hour," you know? But now that I've experienced the world and I've seen, like, what Ken Mitchell and Mary and everybody does close up, and I've
Ugh.
considered how it relates to mask work, which is something you do in drama school, you can make a mask, or in this case, you wouldn't make it, but, the work that you do to sort of become the character in the mask would be fascinating. Um, I think my original thought was, "Oh my god, that's so many hours in makeup," but the artistry of it is really cool. You
Yeah.
disappear behind that incredible makeup that they do. So I would consider, yeah.
Yeah, the folks who put those on are incredibly talented, and you probably didn't
Oh,
get to work with them so much, but, like, wow. Whew.
it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
non-Star Trek question. We'll jump to that one. How did you get the part in the movie Clean
Oh,
Slate?
Clean Slate. Gosh, gotta remember that. Well, it would have been through an audition. I don't even remember that particular audition. I I remember doing the movie vaguely. I don't know. I would have gotten it through an audition. I would have gone in and auditioned, and they would have, yeah. I don't have a
Interesting.
funny audition story about that.
Mhm.
I do remember very clearly, the audition for Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Oh,
That
tell us.
one, because I remember driving down the 101 freeway, and I was going over the lines of the scene I was gonna audition for, and I'm driving down the freeway, and I suddenly realized how irritated the character was at Christina Applegate's character, and that she just was the character I played was just so, patronizing and mean. She was the bad guy. It was fun, but as I'm driving, I'm going through the lines in my head, and I just said to myself in the car, "Personnel," like, duh, and I went into the audition and went, "Personnel," and I think that's why I got that part
That's
out of that one
awesome.
line, which people joke about now, yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, somebody's commenting about the earlier part about the wearing a prosthetic. Mask is such a different beast and totally
Yeah,
different
different
talent.
style of acting, but I've heard many actors who have done Star Trek compare them. They're not trying to conflate the 2 into the same thing, but they've compared, the experience of becoming that face.
Mhm,
You
mhm,
know, mask work is something I would love to go into a drama school these days and see if people do the mask work like they used to, because I only did, like, 1 class in it, and it was just this extraordinary world. So in my inexperience, I haven't done prosthetics and I haven't done professional mask work. In my inexperienced mind, I would
mhm,
put the 2 together as becoming something that's not this,
mhm,
you
mhm.
know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There's a great question here in the chat. This is one actually I feel bad I didn't write myself. This is a great question.
Who are going to audition for roles, be
Yeah,
prepared.
be
Do
prepared.
not do not, try to wing it. It's
Mm,
disrespectful to the people auditioning you and who are, you know, desperately trying to find someone who's right for the role, and you're always told young actors are always told, "Be yourself," which is kind of hard
yeah.
a hard thing. You're like, "Okay, I'll just be myself while I'm really nervous," um, but if you just be a pro. You know, they don't do auditions in person so much anymore, which is sad because the
Yeah.
director can't direct you in person, and you just have the casting director telling you what they think the person wants and
Mhm,
vetting you and all that. It's
mhm,
also nice because you can be more in control. You
mhm,
can, do a few takes and send in what you are proud of. I would say, be prepared, and that means have a point of view.
mm,
Take a point of view on the character, which is really doing your acting work, you know?
mhm.
But
Okay,
don't
that makes
try to
sense.
wing it. Yeah.
How does one get a point of view? Do they just have to make it up themselves, or how do they develop that?
Well, it's all in the acting training. There are also great, acting classes, and
Mhm,
preparing scenes is a little different than preparing for an audition, especially because you don't have as much time. You often only have the sides, 3 pages.
mhm,
There's a man called Tim Phillips, Tim Phillips Studio, and his whole career is coaching actors on auditions,
mm,
and he has a technique for breaking down, and he has I mean, he makes a joke that, actors will do an audition, and let's say, he makes a joke that if a human being, a real human being, goes into an emergency room, and
mhm,
they say to the person, "What's your name?" You know, "What day of the week is it? When were you born?" They're trying to
mhm,
check out your cognitive ability.
mhm,
"Do you know what day of the week is? Where did you just come from?
mhm,
What's your name? Where do you live?" And he said, "But actors will go into a scene and not be able to answer any of those questions." And, he makes a joke, if you were in an emergency room, they would think that you had, you were mentally impaired because you couldn't answer anything of where you are or why. So that would be part of the preparation. But Tim Phillips, tell him I said, that
Jayne sent you.
he's really good at preparing actors for auditions. Yeah.
That's outstanding. It's interesting what you mentioned there about the current situation where people can re-record and that gives them more opportunities. There was one person on the cruise, I won't say who it was because I don't want to attribute it to a specific person, that actually was quite upset about that, because this is somebody who's really, really good in a spontaneous setting. So now
Yeah.
what that person feels is that when they do it, the competition is much fiercer. So they said that person used to land something like 1 in 7, and now they land more like 1 in 20. I believe what the actual numbers that person used, because they're so good.
Because they're able to send. Well, they say the competition's higher because there's more tapes, or because they can't.
Basically, people can like re-record till they get a very optimal.
So what that person would have been saying is the other people get to polish it more.
Exactly.
But see, what I would argue
please,
is the people want the best person for the role, not the person who can pull it off just in an audition. They need someone who can be great on the 12th take. They need someone who can pull the role off, not just pull the audition off. So that person is right. And I would be the opposite person. I would say I hated auditioning. I hate it. So I could deliver more as an actor probably than I could. Sometimes I would hit it in an audition, but sometimes not. I would be a little bit more introverted. I'm not as much of an extrovert, so I wouldn't play the room as well, or, so it evens out. But I agree with that person. I don't like everything being on tape. I think you don't get a feel of the person in the same way, and you can't work with them. The director can't say, try it this way, try it that way.
Yeah.
I think it's sad people aren't meeting in person so much. So.
Yeah, understandable, but sad indeed.
Yeah.
That's a compliment here for you from David Gregory.
Oh, thank you. This is nice. I would join. I love coffee and dessert and chat.
But David Gregory is fantastic. So if you ever have an opportunity to have coffee or dessert with him, he's a good one to do it. So a question from George here. What set was the most memorizing for you, either inside or outside of Star Trek?
Well,
and he added
I have to say that Star Trek would probably be the most mesmerizing because it's so otherworldly, you go on the bridge, but also all of the sets when I was taken, the Klingon sets were really amazing too. When I was taken prisoner and my body was taken into that room that had become like a morgue, and it was like the reason I remember that one is I was lying there, I was supposed to be dead, and I could I would open my eyes and look up at all the detail on the set, and I was like, this is amazing. I could see all the detail because I wasn't talking and walking and moving. I was lying there. But I would say the most mesmerizing would be Star Trek. If you really look at all the gorgeous design and what they do, it's pretty great.
Would it be the bridge particularly, or just anywhere?
Yeah, I mean the bridge, but the bridge, but that beautiful. Where was I? That beautiful Klingon room that had become the morgue had these really intricate archways and carvings, and it was cool.
Yeah, the attention to detail is amazing.
I mean the bridge is really cool because it's the bridge, and also has detail, but it doesn't. Some of the living spaces or that space on the Klingon ship was really gorgeous.
Awesome. I missed a question earlier. I'll jump back to this one. It's from Kimber Spores. What's your favorite role?
My favorite role.
It's always hard to pick those, I know.
I've been asked that, and I have different reasons. I would have different categories of favorite role. So I would have all different categories. There would be my favorite role because of what was happening in my life at the time. My favorite role because of a letter I received, the production. My favorite role, I loved Cornwell for being a strong woman who wasn't 25, who was shown not just as a cardboard cutout, but all the different facets that we've talked about. So I loved Cornwell for that. I also loved years ago, I did a TV movie. This is like, it always comes to my mind when people ask this question, and it was not a great production. The earthquake happened when it aired. It was 2 parts, and the first part showed, and then the California earthquake happened, and I
Oh.
don't know that anyone saw the second part. Something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it was a role I played. I played a real character who had died. I mean, I won't go into the whole thing, but the family wrote to me and said, "I don't know how you did it," and the husband of the woman who died said something that I remember the rest of my life. He said, "I show this movie to my daughters," he had 3, "so that they can know their mother." And I
Wow.
was like, I still tear up when I think of that. I go, "Oh my God, what?" He was just like, "God bless you. I show this movie to my kids so they can know their mother." And then her
Wow.
parents wrote as well. And I somehow just knew her. We had similar backgrounds.
That's
And
amazing.
that was such an honor. That was like such a deep honor. So it wasn't like it was a TV movie,
There are lots of wows in the
Yeah.
chat.
Chicago
Surprisingly.
Hope was so much fun, Chicago Hope was great, one of my favorite roles, great people that I worked with. I've had Boston Legal was so much fun. I've had like some nice fun times. Yeah.
You've done awesome with them all.
Yeah.
So I have one last question. And thanks, by the way, for everybody in the chat who've been providing questions as well. And I'm clearly biased myself on this last question, but quote, "I hear you have a podcast series going," unquote.
I do, and you might have heard of it, Mohammed. So
I
there's
might
this
have.
guy who's a dean of natural sciences at Duke. Oh, it's you. No. So Mohammed already had this BioTrekkie YouTube channel, and he did this great thing I would always joke with Mohammed. Once I met him, I introduced myself to Mohammed. I stood in line to meet Mohammed at a convention to say, I went to Duke. I was almost a biology major. And he was like, "Oh, come talk to my class," which I did. But I kept joking with Mohammed, we should do a panel, but God knows what we would talk about. And Mohammed came up with the idea, BioTrekkie with the Admiral, where we watch the series, seasons 3 and 4, the ones I wasn't in, so I could be a fun fan watching. And we talk about the biology. I ask questions. I'm like everybody, all the fans. I'm the person on the ground, not like asking him to explain more thoroughly the biology. And then if Mohammed has a question, how did the actors do A, B, or C? I can,
which I always do.
I wasn't there, but I can chime in on what I know. But yeah, BioTrekkie with the Admiral on YouTube. And we are starting to air our episodes for season 4. We have to wait for the season to end before we can air the episodes, right?
Which has just ended. Yay.
Just ended. So we are starting to air next week, right?
Yeah, next Sunday. So this
Okay,
like
be
a
there
week
or
from
be
today,
square.
the first one.
And we're doing the first one, we're doing like chat with it, right?
Yeah, possibly more, but yeah, certainly the first one.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mohammed does all the technical side.
Well, it's an honor to do the technical side, and it's an honor to be your friend, and it's been an honor to interview you for this panel. So
thank you. It's fun.
Big thanks for you for being here. Big thanks for doing a wonderful job as Cornwell and in all your previous roles as well. Big thanks to everybody here in the chat for providing
thanks
questions.
everybody for tuning in.
Absolutely. Lots of great questions, lots of enthusiasm. And last but not least, I want to thank Ryan T. Husk, who's the person who's been the main organizer for all the virtual TrekCon. We really appreciate his efforts for being here. And for those of you who want to continue on to see I think the next thing is Disco Does D&D is I believe what's up next.
Oh.
Yeah, so that'll be a fun thing. But you just go to the description box in YouTube and pull it down and then just click. There's a link there that says link to next VTC video. So
yay. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, we're right on time.
Have a great day. Yeah, we're right on time. Good for us. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.